Rahman Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasul Nabiyyun Kareem. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So in the previous session we were discussing about the topic of the three factors which if you take control of, we can bring about a change in our life. Let me just look at the screen 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So the three factors which if we take control of, we can bring about a benefit to our own selves and our own health. And out of the three, we finished the first one, which was self-discipline. And I remember I asked you to remember it as the three S's, to remember it in a more easy way. So the three S's, the first one of them is self-discipline. And we discussed about how one needs to control themselves when they eat, how we need to control ourselves from cravings, from eating junk foods, and also self-discipline in terms of having the control and the ability to fast. And we discussed about the benefits, not the details, but just a little bit how intermittent fasting also helps us detoxify. And exercise, again, that's again under the topic of self-discipline, because unless we have this discipline of keeping a schedule, and the main thing is about taking care of our own bodies. There was a quote that I read recently about how respecting yourself, one of the signs of respecting your own self or having a good self-esteem about yourself is also respecting your own body. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned to us that your body has a right upon you. So taking care of our bodies is also an act of ibadah if we do it with the right intention, not just to look good, not just to impress others, but just so that in the long run, if you think about it, in old age also, like if you want to live an old age with a lot of productivity, it all boils down to how well you take care of your bodies as you get older and older. Especially when you're in the middle of your 30s or 40s, that's when you should be actually, completely avoiding the way you used to live in the past if we didn't have the knowledge about being healthy or having healthy stuffs and avoiding. Because if we see when we're young, we don't see the effects of all of these foods or the toxins that we put into our body, or all the negligence that we have towards our body. It doesn't show the effects immediately. The effects are seen after a number of years pass by. And that's why we see that all of these people, they remain thin throughout their lives, and they suddenly put on weight when they're in their late 30s or 40s or 50s, right? Nobody gets sick all of a sudden. Even the chronic diseases that we have, like all the heart diseases and diabetes and obesity and all of these things, they come in when a person crosses the age of 30 or 40. It doesn't come in when you're like 50. And yes, in today's time, it has also come in early, like childhood obesity and juvenile diabetes, and all of these things have even started coming in our kids now because of the drastic change, because of the whole industrialization process that has literally poisoned our foods, because of which even children are now suffering from these diseases. So that was about self-discipline. So the first thing is that you have to take charge of your body. You have to control what's going in. You have to control about avoiding certain things, and especially it all comes with knowledge. If we don't have knowledge about these things, we're not really going to benefit our own selves. So one is to learn about what is good for our bodies and what we should be doing in order to take care of ourselves in the long run. That was about self-discipline. The second topic, which is today's topic, is going to be about stress, emotional stress specifically. Stress, anxiety, sorrow, grief, about what are the effects. Unless we know the effects of it on our body, we won't really bother to even look at the cure. Like if somebody tells you that this is the result of this, or if you do this, this is what's going to happen. When we know the consequences, then we try to take more care of ourselves. Well, if we don't know, and if we just think, oh, it's just a thing in the air, it's just something that maybe it's not real, then you won't really be motivated enough to take care of your bodies. So the second was stress, and the third was sleep. And if we get time, we will go into the details of the sleep session, but today's session is mostly dealing with the topic of stress. So there's an article that I've posted on the second page of the screen, so let me just swipe it to that, and then we'll go back. Just a second.
I thought it was going to go just fall over. I didn't think it was.
Okay, so I'm just going to read from the screen right now so everybody can look at their screen. You're sitting in traffic, late for an important meeting, watching the minutes tick away. Your hypothalamus, that's a tiny control tower in your brain, decides to send out the order send in the stress hormones. So what happens is whenever you're in a stressful situation, your body has this trigger mechanism where automatically the adrenaline and the cortisol is secreted by your glands, by your adrenal glands. And these are the stress hormones. Now, ideally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these stress hormones in for us to benefit from, meaning to take immediate action or to take control of the situation. So these stress hormones are the same ones that trigger your body's fight or flight response. Your heart races, your breath quickens, and your muscles are ready for action. This response was designed to protect your body in an emergency by preparing you to react quickly. But when the stress response keeps firing day after day, it could put your health at risk. Okay, some sister has just messaged saying that we can hear some other voice. Is somebody's microphone on in the background? If everybody can just switch off their microphones. I think Sister Hajar, your microphone is on. So if you could just switch it off. Thank you. Okay. So I'm just keeping this diagram open. You can go through it. I'll go through it on my other screen there. Just a second. Right. So, and think about the times where, okay, if you feel that you're a person who gets stressed easily, or you're always having anxiety attacks, you're always, worrying about everything, then this is something which is a sign that could lead you to be in this chronic state of stress where it can damage your body. And the effects on the body are tremendous. If you go to see, all of the major diseases that actually take place have some connection with stress. All of it, like the simplest, the smallest ones, like tiny headaches or insomnia or sleepless nights, up to the risks of heart diseases and cancers and all of these things. What happens is when your body cannot cope up with this non-stop trigger that it's getting because of stress, and that's when it just sits back. It also affects our immunity, and that's when we start catching any infection that takes place. Your body is immune now. Your body is falling to it because it's lost its ability to fight back, because this stress response that is supposed to take place is only supposed to take place for example, when we say fight or flight response. What does that mean? It was in the olden days when people would see an animal in the jungle, like when they're just passing by and there were no cities or forests separate from the cities, so they would see animals. So now their body is stressed, they're scared, so now they need to run for their life. So that's when your muscles get active, your blood is pumping, and all of these things are happening. And then it helps you escape that situation or to fight that situation. So if you cannot escape, if you have no escape, you either fight it with your strength, which your body will give you at that moment, or you just run away. Again, you need strength for that. So that's when this mechanism has to come into play. But when you non-stop keep triggering this in your body, then that is when the damage comes. And then you reach a stage of chronic high blood pressure, chronic diabetes, and how these things happen. Inshallah, I will just discuss that a little bit in detail so that you know what your body goes through because of stress, and then we will discuss the cure of it, inshallah. If you can just go through the diagram that is there on the screen. Okay, let me just read it from this instead of reading it from my notes. So the first thing, of course, we'll go from top to bottom. So it's headaches. Stress can trigger and intensify tension headaches. Increased state of depression. I have a few minutes I'm going to speak on separately on the topic of depression, inshallah, so we'll skip that for now. Then again, it increases the acidity in your stomach, because of which you can have regurgitations and heartburns. It causes lack of sleep because you're non-stop thinking about it all the time, even if it's something which has happened in the past, and we keep thinking about it again and again, especially before going to sleep. It's obvious that we're going to go into the state of insomnia over the long run because of lack of peace in our minds. Then again, rapid breathing, weakened immune system. Long-term stress weakens your immune system's defenses, leaving you more vulnerable to infections. The risk of heart attack. If you see, most people who die out of heart attacks or who have cardiac issues, it's always connected to stress. Either they have a lost member of their family, or they have a sudden, we know of so many people who've actually lost their lives just because of a sudden bad news that they receive. So cardiac arrest and all of these things. So high blood pressure, again, because your system is designed in a way when you need to act, you need the blood to gush quickly through the vessels. So when this is happening again and again in your body all the time because of this chronic stress, what ends up happening is your blood pressure remains high, and that's how people become hypertensive. So let me see what's written there. A stress hormone tighten blood vessels, which can raise your blood pressure. Then again, how does it lead to high blood sugar? Stress causes your liver to release extra sugar into your bloodstream, which over time puts you at the risk of type 2 diabetes. Then I already mentioned about stomach, fertility problems. Again, you can also have sexual issues because of it. Rapid breathing, risk of heart attack, pounding heart, missed periods. Again, in women, one of the signs of stress is irregularity in their menstruation, because of this high level of stress, either you miss your period, or it comes late, or it comes early, or it's heavy bleeding, or you have cramps. So in every possible way, that one factor of stress, just if you look at this diagram and think about it, it literally has an effect everywhere in your body. And some of the effects are not even mentioned here. Like just recently they've discovered, or I don't know if it's recent, but I discovered it recently while going through this my notes, where there is this thing called fibromyalgia, again, which is a muscular pain in your body. It's again because of inflammation. And even joint pains and arthritis can be related to high levels of stress. When you have the sudden spurt of stress in your body, where you're where again there's inflammation all over your joints, and that's where you get these joint pains, and these last for months until your stress level goes down or you take action. And we spoke about this in the previous session regarding vitamin D deficiency, which could be one of the causes. But also, if you just have chronic stress, it can cause muscle ache, body aches, joint pains, etc. Okay, let me see what's the next slide. Symptoms of chronic stress include irritability, anxiety, depression, headaches, and insomnia. We've already discussed that. Let me go back to the screen. I'm not going to go into too much of the details of these topics because it's too much of the medical stuff, which I don't think you guys might be interested in. I just want to go back to the solution of it. I'm just seeing if I missed anything. Worsened condition of anxiety, which is our topic for today. Long-term consequences. Okay, this is okay. Okay, after stress, I want to discuss the topic of anger, because they're both connected. When one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ came to the Prophet and asked him, "Give me an advice," the Prophet ﷺ replied by saying, "Do not become angry." And then he repeated this: "Do not become angry. Do not become angry." So one is, of course, because we know the consequences of anger, the immediate consequences of anger, which could be that when you're angry, you say certain things and it may hurt the other person and you may regret it later. Or when we get angry, we do certain things, or we act in a certain way, we break things, or we say things, or we hurt people. So these are the effects, the outer effects, the tangible effects, which we can see, right? Like when you say something bad to someone, you either break relationships, or you create grudges, you hurt people, you break things around, however you may react in your anger. It has the consequences which we see with our own eyes in our day-to-day lives, but we don't see the consequences that happen inside our body because of the same anger, which is causing these external effects. So when we're in a state of anger, again, the same response as stress is triggered in our body. And if it's just for a moment, it can still be overlooked. But if this is a constant state in which you're in, where you're always angry, you're always having grudges, you're always having issues with people, you're always fighting with people, you're not forgiving people, and that's the key, where we don't forget and forgive, then that's when it affects our body on a long-term basis, on a chronic basis. So for example, you had an issue with someone and it was a moment of anger, you were angry, you maybe said something, and if it ended then and there, then still you've saved yourself from more consequences. But if you drag it and keep dragging it and keep a grudge and you don't forgive, see, there's a lot of hikmah in why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to forgive others. And what is the reward that he has kept? That when we forgive others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives our sins. Have mercy on those who are on earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy on you. So it's not just a saying that, oh, just forgive them and Allah will forgive you. It's not just for getting the reward, but it is because if you see that if we didn't have this quality or this characteristic of forgiveness in our religion, what would happen? Imagine if this was not the reward. Like, for example, if you hurt people and you would just get away with it, I'll just ask Allah for forgiveness and let her keep the grudge, or let me just, keep fighting with her or having an issue with them, or whatever the situation may be. If that was the case, would relationships survive? No, because it is because of somebody who has taqwa. They will start forgiving people just so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives their sins. It's just for the sake of Allah that we forgive others, so that Allah forgives our sins. And as a result, then automatically the relationships improve. Like the basic examples we can talk about is, for example, a husband-wife relationship. If spouses have issues and if they remain angry for the rest of their lives, is the relationship going to work? No. Right? If you're angry with your children and you remain angry with them for the rest of their life, you're ruining not just their dunya but also their akhirah, right? Because the child requires the pleasure of their parents. So it is, forget about friends and extended families, but just your basic day-to-day, like your parents, your spouses, your siblings that you live with. If we don't forgive each other, it's going to have a long-term consequence in our relationships. And then what happens when we don't do it in our extended families? We cut ties of relationships. And all of these actions, they don't just have consequences in our dunya but also our akhirah. Because in the dunya you've already lost relationships, and that again leads to depression then, and it's a whole vicious cycle that keeps repeating. And then in the akhirah you've lost the rewards. So if we dig deep into the benefits of whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in this religion, it is for our own good, for our own health, and for us to survive on this earth, not just to gain rewards in the hereafter. Like when Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, so all the hadith about good character, and the one who has good character will be with me like this on the day of judgment, and about akhlaq and all of these things, the two factors that will get people into Jannah is taqwa and husnul khuluq, the consciousness of Allah and good character. So why? Because good character is something which is essential for us to survive in this life. Forget about the akhirah where you're getting the extra rewards and the outcomes of your actions of the dunya, but just to survive with people around. If we have good manners, it's easier for us to live with people, to carry on with life, and to save yourself the hassle of falling sick and having all these problems that come with stress, anxiety, and grudges and depressions. Okay, so going back to the screen, the health consequences of continual fight or flight response can be severe. As I mentioned, the explanation which I gave for fight or flight, where we either act in that moment, and if this goes on and on, then it becomes chronic. So our automatic anger response leads to health problems like headaches, digestive imbalances, insomnia, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, skin problems, including eczema, heart attack, and stroke. So this is the same as the diagram before. How does it affect our heart? Your heart is especially vulnerable to the deadly effects of anger and its consequences. Okay, this is a research, so I'm not going to go into details of it. Those with explosive tempers were significantly more likely to have arterial calcium deposits, a primary indicator for heart attack. Yeah, this is calcification of the arteries, which is one of the causes of heart attack, where your arteries are calcified, they become hard. So now it's difficult for the blood to pass by to reach the heart, and that's where heart attacks begin. So if we see life takes toll on us for over so many years, that then when you reach the age of 50, 60, you start getting these problems, right? So imagine if you start working and if you're aware of all of these things, you automatically know that, you know what, I shouldn't stress over this. It's a small issue, just let me get over it. And what is the solution? That indeed in the remembrance of Allah does the heart find ease. So if we always keep remembering this, and we'll discuss about this inshallah in detail towards the end, but if we always keep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we always keep remembering the hereafter, that is our goal, and just let go of the petty things in life, if not for anything then just for your own health, so that you don't have to get into this issue of damaging your own health. Oh, is the content all gone from the screen? Because I don't see it on the screen right now. Let me just share it again. Okay, I'll just share the main things that I needed to. So let's begin with this. Okay. Before we move to the supplications, let me just see if I finished stuff from here. Okay, so These were the consequences of what stress can have on our body. Now, coming to the solution. 1 second, let me see, look at those. All right, so when we think about the solution, we'll do it one by one because we'll come to the du'as in the end. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss what's on the screen right now. I'll just speak about the points about solution, and then we will discuss the du'as, inshallah. And then I'm going to post a few pictures from the book, because in the end I'm going to post the pages from the book, the book called Medicine of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that you can store those pictures, and because there are extra du'as in that section. So the first thing, what is the first solution that uh, now look, this is regarding the solutions that I'm mentioning are, of course, along with if you're in a state of chronic depression or major depressive illness where it's like a serious disorder, okay, then of course you go onto the professional help and the medical help and whatever. But this is just the beginning. Like if you feel you're heading towards that, or you're just sad, or you're just you have, and that's a normal thing in life, right? Like when we go through sorrow or anxiety or sadness or grief, it's a part of day-to-day life. So these are the solutions where we take care of those situations immediately on the spot. Whereas somebody who's already who's already in a depressive state for a long number of years, then of course their situation is different, and they need professional help, and along with all these extra points. So the first thing is, the first question, that if anybody is really struggling, okay, with their emotional happiness, or they just cannot be happy, or they're just stressful all the time, the first question is, are you doing your salah 5 times a day? That is one. And two, if you are doing it 5 times a day, are you doing it with khushu? Or has there a change come about in your salah? Is it still the same as before, or is it uh, being done differently now, right? That now, this does not mean that somebody who is far usually people connect that, oh, if you're depressed and you're far from Allah, or you're not praying, or because you might be praying salah, you might be reading Quran, you might be doing dhikr and afkar of morning and evening, you might be doing a lot of good deeds, and still you may feel this way. So it's not a give take that if you're like this, then it's like, it doesn't mean that. But what it means is, one way for you to look at it is that, am I doing whatever I'm doing correctly? That's the first thing. And most likely, when we turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this doesn't mean that you have no iman or that you're not a Muslim. You could be a Muslim, you could have iman and yet go through all of these things. But it could be that maybe at that moment your iman is low. So it's a sign that you work on your iman to increase it. Why? Because the more closer you feel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the better you can take care of your situations, the better you can handle your life. So whenever you feel that you are feeling down, you are feeling low, maybe one of the signs could be that you're not as close to Allah as you were before, or that you're doing certain things in the wrong way. Maybe you are doing it incorrectly. Maybe there's something lacking in you. Maybe there is an issue with your relationship with the Quran. Maybe you're not reciting the Quran enough, because the Quran is a shifa. Now there are situations where you might be already in a very chronic depressive condition, and you are reading Quran, Salah, and it's not having an effect on you. So it boils down to iman and your knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He is to be known? And again, this is not for those who are suffering from chemical imbalances, which can cause a proper state of depression. This is just a basic day-to-day. This is for the general public, which has days of ups and downs. So it's just like how our iman goes up and down, our happiness goes up and down, right? Our state of mind cannot always be the same. There are days where you're happy, there are days you're sad. So this is for those situations to deal with on a day-to-day basis, not for somebody who is suffering from a psychiatric issue or psychologically chronic issue. Okay, so the first thing is salah. Am I doing my salah correctly? Am I doing my wudu properly? Am I covering myself up properly in salah? Am I reciting correctly in my salah? The physical aspects. The second would be the state of the heart. Am I having khushu in my salah? Do I feel any connection when I stand before Allah? Because you're supposed to find peace and tranquility and disconnection from the world when you're in salah. And if we are not in that state, then we begin with that. And maybe that's a solution for all of your problems, because the quality of your life then will depend on the quality of your salah. So if your salah is sound, everything, just like the hadith, right? The first deed that the son of Adam will be questioned about on the day of judgment is his salah. If it is sound, the rest of the deeds will be sound. If it is corrupt, the rest of the deeds will be corrupt. So if your salah is intact, most likely problems will be solved. And you might think, no, my salah is intact. I'm praying every day. I'm doing my wudu correctly. I'm, doing all the fiqh aspects correctly. So my salah is intact. But maybe your heart is not in place. And that's very common. It can happen that your heart is away from Allah. Your mind may be diverted towards other things, which again, you think that you're doing it for the sake of Allah, but maybe the intentions are not there. So we first rectify our intentions. We build our connection with Allah. And how do we build our connection with Allah? With the Quran. So if we recite the Quran along with understanding, not just the recitation, because the shifa will come. How will it be a medicine for your heart? How will the Quran become a shifa for your soul, for your heart? Is by understanding. How does the heart change? It's by knowing what I'm supposed to do, right? So having a connection with the Quran, reading it with meaning, and learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either through the Quran or by learning His names and attributes. And as we know that when we think about Allah in the correct way, when we think about Allah, automatically our hearts should be at ease, because at the end of the day we rely upon Him. Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil, that He is the one who takes care of me. So if I have my tawakkul in Him, automatically things will be under control. So that helps us not to overstress. When we leave our matters in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands, then we know that okay, He will take charge. But if we're doing something wrong, and if we are disobeying Allah, and we know that we're disobeying Allah, we know that I'm hurting people, or that I'm not doing certain obligations that I'm supposed to do, if I'm displeasing Allah, then maybe Allah is sending these signs in my life so that I turn to Him, right? So we have to take it with wisdom, and it doesn't apply in every situation, but this is just a general thing of what it could be, right? So because Ibn al-Qayyum mentions about the effects of sins, and sometimes it's our sins that lead us into these situations where we don't see the signs coming from Allah. Just like when the heart gets hard, it gets covered up with this ran ala qulub, the coating where the heart gets hard, because of which we now stop seeing the signs from Allah. We stop seeing that what effect are my sins having on me, and sometimes it reaches a stage of desensitization where we don't even know that we're in a state of sin. Like, when you're accustomed to sin, it could be any sin. When you're accustomed to it for a long time, it doesn't feel like a sin anymore. So maybe if you get rid of that one sin, that is the solution to your problem, where you are struggling in this for a long time. You didn't realize that it was because of this that I had all of these other issues that are coming in my life. And it could be deprivation of blessings. It could be deprivation of risk coming your way. It could be so many other things. It could be deprivation of iman, increase in a state of iman because of sins. Because the sins become a barrier between us and Allah. And what blessing can be greater than having a sound mind and good health, right? So sometimes when we are constantly surrounded by people all the time, and our discussions are about dunya. Even you could be working in a masjid, you could be volunteering, you could be teaching the Quran, but still the intention behind it becomes where you started off with a good intention, but then it becomes like you're just doing it as a routine. So the one solution would be to renew your intentions for the sake of Allah, and two, take a break from the dunya and just sit with the Quran and refresh your iman, like a retreat for yourself. Like just take a break from everything that you're doing on a routine basis and take out time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take out time where you're not just doing the salah routinely, but you study before you get into the salah, where you learn about Allah, where you read the Quran, where you just take out time and I'm going to bring a change in my life. I'm going to build a relationship with the Quran. There should not be a single day that passes by where you don't read anything from the Quran. If you really want peace in your lives and you want the Quran to become a shifa for you in your day-to-day life, there should not be a single day that passes by where you haven't recited anything from the Quran. And if you see that a number of days have passed by and you haven't read the Quran, then cry upon yourself. This is the advice of Sufyan al-Thawri, I believe. I hope I'm right. But there's a video where you can just look it up, and I've mentioned in a lot of my previous talks with this class, where a person comes to, I think it was Sufyan al-Thawri, a person comes to him and says, many days have passed by and I haven't recited anything from the Quran. So he tells him, I'm just paraphrasing, he tells him that, so cry upon yourself, because indeed it is due to a sin that you've committed. It could be a sin from your eyes, from your limbs, from your tongue, he just mentions a list of sins that you may have committed, because of which you've been deprived of this blessing of reciting the Quran. So again, there's a connection where one is istighfar. Istighfar is a solution to many, 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 many problems. Because we think that we're doing good. We might think that, I'm all good and I don't have any issues in my life. I don't have any sins in my life. But maybe we are doing certain things which are displeasing to Allah, for which we need to seek forgiveness. And again, humility is extremely important when it comes to istighfar. If you don't have the humility to accept that, yes, you know what, I have this weakness. And it's okay to have weaknesses, because you were not created perfect. We were not created as angels, because we were created so that we sin and then we repent to Allah. So the key to it is repentance. No matter what sin you have fallen into, no matter what you're doing, no matter how many years have passed by that you're struggling with getting rid of certain habits, there, it's never too late to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until death comes, the doors of forgiveness are open. So all we need to do is just sincerely turn to Allah, and not just ask for forgiveness, but ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the ability to get rid of those sins. Ask Allah to help you to get rid of whatever you want to get rid of, whatever weakness that we have. We ask Allah to help us so that we overcome that weakness. And this requires a lot of commitment, determination, and sincerity. If you are really sincere that you want to get rid of bad habits, or you want to say you're lazy towards salah, or you're not doing certain obligations that Allah wants you to do, or you're not reciting the Quran, or whatever issues you may have, if you find it difficult on your part, if you find it a weakness in you, then you obviously ask Allah for help. And for that, you require humility to accept it, and then turn to Allah and ask for help. And then obviously we repent, so that we make the intention never to go back to the sin. And when we are in a state of istighfar all the time, you will see automatically blessings coming your way. And of course, a part of that is good health and peace of mind and tranquility in your soul. That's the biggest blessing. You can have all the wealth in the world, all the luxuries of life, but if you don't have a sound heart and mind, if you don't have peace within you, all of that is zero. And we've heard this over and over again, right? We have rich people, we have film stars and famous people who commit suicide and are depressed in life, even though they have everything. Why? Because they don't have peace of mind. And it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is the source of peace, right? As-salam, he's the only one who is the source of peace. Again, spreading salams is, again, this is the reason why when we say assalamu alaikum, it's a dua that we give others. When we greet somebody with this salam, it means that may Allah's peace and blessings be with you. What does it mean? Like, if you think about it, the next time you greet someone, automatically you will know that when you are saying the salam to somebody, it is you're literally making dua for that person for peace and tranquility in their life. So next time when you say salam, or when you're replying to a salam, do it with that intention, so that you have this peace in your life. So the first solution, as we mentioned, was salah. The second was Quran, having a relationship with the Quran, and see to it that even if you don't get time to recite the Quran on a daily basis, at least before you sleep, you can just pick up your phone and read one ayah with the, just recite along with the meaning and contemplate and go to sleep. That's the least you can do. And we don't have any excuse that I don't have time, or I don't have, because if we have time to scroll through social media, and we have time for WhatsApp and messages and all of the other things that we're doing in life, we can at least take out 5 minutes before sleeping during the night, right? The other one of the solutions that comes is adhkar, which I'll be posting on the screen, inshallah. It's there on the book. So when I post the book towards the end, we will go through those. But again, the morning and evening adhkar, there are so many adhkar that help us to prevent these situations. Like one of them, I think it's on the screen. Let me go back to the screen. This one, which is already on the screen, right? Like Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal hazni. So over here we have, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from anxiety and sorrow, from weakness and laziness, from miserliness and cowardness, and the burden of debts, and from being overpowered by men. So, okay, here are the details of those words if you want more details. So the azkar, again, it helps us keep Allah in mind, remember Allah, and automatically it and tranquility. Now, the fourth point that I want to mention is very important, and that is having a purpose in life. Most people who feel low, or basically, when they say that I'm bored, or I don't have anything to do, or I'm doing so much, I'm doing salah, I'm doing adhkar, I'm doing all of these things, I'm like living the whatever is required from me, I'm doing my best, but still I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm lonely. So this happens because we lose purpose in our life. And when I say purpose in life, it's not just worshiping Allah, but what I mean is by serving others. When we live a life where we don't contribute towards society, then automatically you lose a purpose in your temporary life. Our long-term goal in life is to worship Allah, and we know that as Muslims, right? It's to worship Allah and live our life pleasing Allah. But if you're just doing this and you're just doing your ibadah and doing everything, but you don't feel that you're contributing to others, you're not helping people around you, then you might feel a little bit low about yourself, because you feel like, what am I there for? Who needs me? This is how depressive people think most of the times. They feel that they're of no use, and that's why people take their lives, because they're like, if I leave this world, there's nothing, nobody needs me, so I might as well take my life and end my life. That's how these thoughts come into people. Why? Because they they now don't have a temporary or an immediate goal in their life. So one of the solutions out of these situations is set short-term goals for yourselves. And it could be even within your home. It could be just serving your family with that intention. If it's possible, then of course do bigger things in life where you make goals. Today, in today's time, internet and everything, it's become so easy to just serve people. Like, you could do it online, you could do it writing articles, writing books, or it could just be like arranging for feeding the poor. Get a group where you have people, where you have soup kitchens, or you just have people gather some money and you donate it. You can do anything. Like, set a goal for yourself. This is going to be my goal for the temporary, maybe a year, and then you keep changing those goals every year. So automatically you will have something to look forward to on a daily basis, right? And if we do this with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find more pleasure in it. Like, even the disbelievers, even though they don't have Allah in their life, they still find pleasure in doing good. Like, they may be extremely wealthy, but they don't enjoy their wealth unless they give it to others. So whatever talent you have, if you use it to serve others, automatically you find a purpose in life. You find that you're waking up next day to do something. Or else, if you don't have a purpose on a daily basis, one of the signs where depressed people don't want to get up the next morning is because, what do I get up for? I don't have anything to do, right? But if you have a purpose, it could be as simple as preparing a good meal for your family, just to serve them, so that you've done your duty, your obligation, or your sadaqah towards your family or towards people outside. Cooking for somebody, feeding people, small things. All of these small things, if you do it with the right intention, then you find more sweetness, and you automatically get this pleasure of serving others. One of the other points is looking at those below you, because most of the people who are always in a sad state or in a low mood, it's always because, and especially social media plays a huge role now in today's world, where in the previous days you always hung around like-minded people, or people who live like you, right? Like, for example, you live in a society, you live in a building or an area, and you have everybody around you who lives in the same area. So this is your community. You hang around with them, you play with them. If you're kids, you grow up with them, and that's your life. That's what you see, and this is how they are. They live, they pay the same rent as you, or they buy the same home as your home, or whatever it is. So you are living with the people who are like you, unless you travel and go out and once in a while meet somebody and come back. But in today's world, you may be in your bedroom and you're looking at people all over the world posting things and bragging about stuff, and it's all fake out there. It's all made up stuff. And why do people do it? To make others jealous. And I've heard people saying that. I've seen posts where people actually, there was this one article about how Facebook and social media has ruined people's lives, because they post certain things, like they go on a vacation and they post things like jealous question mark under the picture. So these kind of things, it's like, one, there are people who are actually striving hard to make others jealous, and two, somebody who's already in a depressed condition is looking at these things and feeling even worse now, thinking that, oh, look how they're enjoying their life, and look at me. And if you go to see these moments, even you could have them in your life. It's just that you're not posting them. So by posting it, it doesn't make it any more better. It's just that you feel like, one of the sheikhs mentioned that you might be sitting in your room in pajamas, and you're like about to go to sleep, or maybe you're hungry at that moment, and somebody posts a picture of they're having this lavish meal at some restaurant, or they're hanging out and they're having fun, and here you're sitting in your lonely home with your food or whatever. So all of these things, it's shaitan who keeps whispering all the time to bring about sadness in the son of Adam. That's his goal, to make you sad, to lose hope, to lose purpose, and then it literally drags you to the point of suicide, where you feel like, I have no purpose in life, I have no hope left in life. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to keep turning to him, to never lose hope in him, and to do something so that you change your life and have a purpose on a daily basis, so that you have something to look forward to. And the last point that I want to make is about meeting people for the sake of Allah. If you feel that you are in this, suffering from this condition, then the best would be that just go and have a group or sisters or friends that are for the sake of Allah, and just go and meet them. And this used to happen in olden days, right? People had because if they were bored, they would just enter the neighbor's house and have a cup of tea and talk. And that's what we as humans require. We require good company. We require people to talk to. We require somebody whom we can share our thoughts with. So one of the other causes that could lead to depression is loneliness. And if you feel you're suffering from that, you go out, make friends, and make good friends who will give us good advice so that we don't um, uh, go off track and get wrong advices and, astray, go somewhere else. So just a minute, let me check so in olden days, people would meet their neighbors just to hang out with them. And that, again, it helps you from the whispers of shaitan. When we're sitting idle, when we're sitting alone, it is shaitan that will start whispering and giving you bad thoughts, or giving you uh, depressive thoughts to make you sad and to make you feel like you have absolutely no purpose in life. And he is at his task 24/7. Whenever you're about to sin, whenever you're about to feel low, you're feeling, you want to stress out, you want to blast out in anger, remember, it's shaitan staying there right next to you, whispering to make you, to push you into it, so that you lose control over your nafs. And that's why self-discipline was the first thing. When I mentioned the first point about self-discipline, it's not just about controlling your eating and your, having control over your exercise and all of those things, but it's also having control, learning to take control over stress, learning to take control over anger, learning to take control over grudges. One of the reasons why a man enters Jannah is because he cleans his heart from grudges. He would sleep with a clean heart. And all these problems that we have today regarding heart diseases and cancers and stress and all of these things that are happening, one of the causes is also long-term stress, long-term grudges against people. Like when you people, you have this bitterness inside of you. Whereas if you forgive, you automatically feel the lightness, that no matter what that person has done, no matter how badly he or she has hurt you, leave it to Allah and forgive that person. Forgive the person for the sake of Allah, so that you yourself feel lighter. Okay, now coming back to the screen. Let me just open the screen. That's the second dua. And if you see the wordings of it, oh Allah, it is your mercy that I hope for. So do not leave me in charge of my affairs, even for a blink of an eye, and rectify for me all of my affairs. None has the right to be worshipped except you. One of the du'as for, so over here in this dua, it is about leaving your affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no matter how big your problem is, it is not impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to resolve it for you. It is very much possible that Allah can take away the biggest calamities from your life. And I mentioned in the previous session about how dua and making prayers can help people even come out of the worst conditions, worst sicknesses and illnesses. Like I know of people who've suffered from the worst cancers, and today they're living normal, happy lives just because of dua. So it's not impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take out any calamity from your life, provided that you become sincere to Him, you remember Him, and you worship Him in the way He expects you to, you to worship Him. So doing it correctly and doing it sincerely, and then making dua, that's the solution to all of your problems. There is nothing that is impossible for Allah to take out from your life. So if we do our best and then we hand our affairs to Allah, then we don't have to take this stress and worries in our life. The next one is about making the Quran. If you want to make the Quran the spring of your life, this is the dua which you need to save. And it's a very common dua. Just see the meaning of it. First is admitting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're humble, admitting to Him that you are a humble slave of His. So Allah, I am your slave, the son of your slave, and the son of your maid slave. Your command over me is forever executed, and your decree over me is just. I ask you by every name belonging to you, which you have named yourself with, or revealed in your book, or you taught to any of your creation. That's why, again, learning the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala become important. Unless we know Allah, we won't have the tranquility. And then towards the end, it is, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you make the Quran the life of my heart and the light of my chest, and a departure for my sorrow and a release for my anxiety. So whoever recites this, Allah will remove his sorrow and replace it with happiness. Okay, now I'm going to post the pictures from the book so that we don't miss out any pages from there. So let me go back to my Okay. So if you look at the first page there, we just quickly glance through it. Um, so again, these are all of these pages now from 216 onwards are all supplications. You can see the hadith there. Should I teach you some words that you should recite when in distress? Allah is my Lord with whom I associate nothing and no one. So it's Allahu Rabbi la ushriku bi shay'an. So all of these, like even la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, all of these things, la ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. All of the things which we know of, but we don't say them with the same consciousness. So basically learning the meanings, and that's why I'm posting all of these du'as along with the meaning. This is the same du'a which I just recited about making the Quran the light of our chest. So that is on the next page. Then I hope you guys are taking screenshots. So if you want me to go back to any page, just tell me the page number and I'll go back to it. That's the third page. It's most of the du'as which we already know, but it's just that we don't know the meaning of it. So you can take the pictures of the meaning. Okay, this is I think the next few pages. You see the paragraph there. 1 second, there's a message here. So just a minute, let me go back to the chats. You can tell me the page number so that I can go back to the page. So right now we're on page 221. There's a paragraph up there. If you look at the second paragraph, Tawheed opens the door to all types of good, happiness, joy, elation, and enjoyment for the slave. Also, repenting to Allah extracts all types of. Please, the du'as, all I was logged out. Okay, I'll go back to the du'as in the end. Just let me just finish this paragraph. Also, repenting to Allah extracts all types of harmful, sinful causes of the heart's ailment. Further, Tawheed is the diet of the heart against bad substances, for it closes the doors of evil. The doors of happiness and all types of good will be opened with Tawheed, while repentance and seeking forgiveness will close the doors of evil. You can go on reading if you want. Whoever seeks to acquire good health for the body should consume less amounts of food and drink. Whoever seeks the well-being of his heart, let him abandon sin. The body's well-being requires consuming less food. The soul's comfort is in committing less sins, and the consolation of the tongue is in uttering less speech. And this is a very common advice which Ibn al-Qayyum keeps giving about eating less, sleeping less, talking less, and what was the fourth thing? So basically, when we talk too much, when we socialize too much, again, that becomes an ill for the heart. Because either we reveal too much where we can catch the evil eye, or we just end up wasting time in blabbering, and the conversation was good, but now it goes somewhere else where suddenly somebody says something and now you're hurt, or you heard it and now you didn't like it. So always keep the interactions to, as much as it's needed. And eating part we've already completed before. What was the other thing? Less food and the less sins. So the soul's comfort lies in committing less sin. So when you know something is displeasing to Allah, or when you know that this is a sinful thing, we rather avoid. And the other thing was also, in the previous sessions that I mentioned, we rather be a little hungry and not eat junk than just because I'm hungry, let me just put anything in myself, right? So that starving also will help your body. It could be like, the whole concept of intermittent fasting. You may not be fasting for the sake of Allah, like the ritual Monday, Thursdays or whatever, but just temporary fasting. Like say, for example, you don't have lunch, you're outside and you don't have anything to eat, and you had your breakfast though, but you don't have lunch now, and you're hungry and you're starving and you feel you're going to die, and then you just feel like go and buy a pack of French fries and eat it. You rather not have those French fries than to have them. And and in today's time, it's not impossible to get healthy foods around, right? You can just go and buy a pack of nuts or something that is more nutritious than just having junk. That's why it requires a lot of self-discipline and control. Okay, so the du'as, I'm going to go back to all of the du'as one by one. So while I'm posting it, you can take the pictures, okay? So this is the first page 216. This is the next one. You can just take screenshots on your phone. Then this is the third one. This is the fourth. This doesn't have the dua, so I think it ends there. If you want, you can click pictures of these two. The worst diseases that attack the heart are shirk, sins, and forgetfulness, ignoring what Allah likes and is pleased with, abandoning relating all matters to Him, and not depending on Him for everything. Diseases of the heart also include relying on other than Allah, rejecting His decision, and doubting and ignoring His warnings and promises. Also, relying on other than Allah. What happens when we're in a stressful situation? Normally, we tend to turn towards people for help. You know what? You pick up a phone. Oh, this happened to me, or that happened to me, and we start looking for solutions from people. What should I do? Right? Rather, we turn to Allah, pray 2 rakahs, make dua to Allah, or just recite the Quran and find tranquility with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will take care of our affairs, rather than first turning. And of course, you can't turn to people, but first we turn to Allah, make dua. And if you are in a very, very stressful situation, the best thing is for you to get up at night and to make dua during tahajjud. Maybe that's why Allah brought this in your life, so that you wake up at night and start crying to Him. Maybe that's what He wants to see from you. Maybe He wants to reward you for that. Maybe that could be a means of increasing your iman. So it's not always that bad things can happen as a result of being negligent or being away or being sinful. It could be that you are already in a good state of iman, but yet something bad happens in your life, just so that you cry to Allah. Maybe you haven't cried to Allah for a lot of time, and so this situation makes you turn to Allah and cry to Him. Maybe Allah wants to increase your reward in the akhirah, because every sorrow that the son of Adam goes through is a means of expiation of his sins. Every bad thing that happens to a believer, it is good for him, because it's a means of expiation of his sins and increasing his rank in the hereafter. So maybe it's just that. Maybe you should be happy and content. Maybe it's a test of your sabr, right? So it could be anything. That reminds me, I missed a page actually. I have the Urdu version. Is it the same? If it's titled The Medicine of the Prophet by Ibn al-Jawzi. Let me check the cover exactly. Yeah, Healing with the Medicine of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawzi. It's by Darussalam publication. So if it's the same, yeah, I think it's the same one. Yeah, if it's by Darussalam, then it's the same one. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I said that I missed a page. Let me just for the solutions of grief. So one was asking Allah, so making dua to Allah. Maybe you haven't made dua to Allah for a long time. There's a hadith in Tirmidhi that Allah is angry with those who do not ask Him for anything. So it could be that. Then I was reciting the Quran, we did that. Doing dhikr, we did that. Offering salah, we did that. The three quls, قل هو الله أحد قل أعوذ برب الفلق and قل أعوذ برب الناس. So if again these were a means of protection, not just from the evil eye, but also just to protect yourself on a daily basis. And that's why we have these morning and evening afkar. When we recite the three quls and all the other du'as that are there, automatically you are asking Allah to protect you. So reciting those and also seeking help through sabr, because sometimes this calamity that you're going through, if you show patience throughout it, you gain reward for it, and automatically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you, even though it's a trial. Relying on Allah, seeking forgiveness for your sins, and yeah, I think we covered most of it. Show us the cover page, please. Okay, I'm going to take a picture and send you a cover of this book.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I'm sending the picture right now on the screen, so so those who want to buy the book, it's available on Amazon too if you want to buy it from there. So share content. And there, it's that book. Oh, we can switch off the recorder if you want, because we're done with today's session. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. So if you have any questions or anything that you want me to repost, we